Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Crafty Hour number 18. Oh my gosh, Crafty Hour number 18 already on the go. There we go. Okay, I am going to pass you on to Diane. We are all set up, so hang tight here.
Shift change. Good morning, everybody. Oops, got my head in there. Oh, we already have a few people logging on. I'm very excited about that.
Might have to talk about it.
Okay.
Maybe.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm very excited to be here today. This is my first Crafty Hour. So I hope you guys are patient with me and I'm going to get into my flow. I know for sure. But right now it's kind of getting used to the whole system. I haven't taught in a little while. I used to teach quite a bit, but I haven't taught, of course, pandemic and all that kind of stuff. And virtual is a whole new ball game for me. So I'm going to do my best today. I do have dimensions printed for everything. So if you're not sure, of course, you can always go back and take a look too. I'm just going to let it load up a little bit more. We've got quite a few eyeballs on, which is very exciting. And I hope you enjoy my style of cards. They're a little bit different, which is nice because then you get kind of a variety of us all doing different things, which I love because I love to see everybody else's creations as well. So these are our cards we're going to be working on today. Our first one is going to take a little bit longer. So that one, I know that we'll spend some extra time on that. And if we happen to run out of time before we get to the third card, which is very simple, again, I have the dimensions and I'll be posting those afterwards. The best bet for you is always to be in the Crafty Hour Creations group because that gets your videos up for you and also inspiration. We want you to share the things that you have made with all your extras from your kit. And I have about 5 or 6 items that I have done separately. And I am going to post those with dimensions as well. And then you can create those afterwards or not. Again, it's just ideas. I want to make sure that Courtney, of course, uses the paper that she needs to use for her class, which is later this afternoon. It is 5 p.m. Pacific. And again, you should receive notification of that if you're in the Crafty Hour group as well. But I just want to make sure that you, don't use paper that maybe Courtney is going to use. So I will post those, definitely post those creations afterwards. And then if you have any questions, anytime at all, always please just come back, into the group and ask, and I can always answer them that way for you as well. So I think, well, we're still about 5 minutes away. So we'll wait a few minutes just to make sure everybody is on.
Go over the homework.
Yeah.
Everybody did the homework.
Okay. Homework. I did put a few things out there. If you wanted to do them that way, you don't need to. But of course, I wanted to make sure that you were prepared for what I was going to put together today. So all I did was pick the cards. I thought that would be easier than you having to go through all the sheets to figure out which card I was using on the different cards, the little 3x4 and 4x4 cards. So I did put those on a sheet for you. I believe it was the Let It Be one and the This Is My Happy Place square piece, as well as the little Be Happy strip. That's one thing I love about Echo Park. They put the name of the collection at the bottom of their papers. And in a lot of cases, it doesn't have like the, item code or the, Echo Park paper or anything on there. You can use these. Don't get rid of those because they're awesome to embellish a card, or as we're going to use in the Twisted Easel card today as well. I also put out homework to do 2 embossing folders. I listed the 2 that I used. I have them right here. This one and this one, the Spellbinders Flower Frenzy one, which is this one. I love this embossing folder. Their embossing folders are just unbelievable. They're so nice, and they're 3D, so like the impression is amazing. And then we use the little tiny Sizzix guy as well. And your home store, either Diana at Clipper Street or Courtney at Scrapbook and Memories, will also, if they don't have them in stock, I'm sure would be able to get them for you as well. So, and you can always call the store or email, and then we'd be able to get those for you too. I believe, I know Clipper Street has some of the little guys right now, but the bigger ones I believe are on order and will be coming in. So those are the 2 embossing folders I used. You don't need to use the embossing folders I used, and you don't even need to use an embossing folder. The nice thing about Crafty Hour is really like a craft along, and it's also suggestions for cards. You could take this awesome kit, which by the way, Echo Park is one of my favorite companies, and make whatever you wanted with it. But these are just ideas that you're going to be able to, you know, put together yourself. And of course, Courtney, I've seen a sneak peek of her cards, and they are amazing as well, that she'll be doing later this afternoon. So that's just something to keep in mind. But that was all the homework I believe that I had written down for you. So if, again, you don't need to do it the way I've done it, but it gives you suggestions more than anything else. I used to always say when I taught, I don't consider myself a great teacher. I consider myself somebody that has some great ideas. So, you know, take it for that. And that's what I love about the virtual. And the thing about Crafty Hour as well. You can sit back and have a cup of coffee and not even do all of this right now. And because it is all saved, then you can go back and look at it and go, you know, I like that idea, but I'd like to alter it, or I'd like to use other paper or whatever. That's entirely up to you. And that's the great thing about the Crafty Hour creations. So we are just about at 10 o'clock.
10 a.m. on the dot.
Alrighty, so we're going to get started, because especially this first card that we are going to do, which is the Twisted Easel card right here. So we are going to work with this one first. So I believe in the homework, I asked you if you could please have a card that was 5.5 by 5.5 and scored. So that you should already have done. If not, go ahead and you can do that now. And I'm going to just show you this. Like I say, this is all new to me, so give me a second to make sure I get in focus and in the camera here for you too. Want to make sure you can see the dimensions, and if you can't, you could always take a screenshot and blow it up as well. And I'll leave the card kind of over here to the side too, so that you should be able to, yeah, there we go. I think that looks good. Again, guys, this is all new, so bear with me. Okay, so we've got our 5.5 by 5.5 card that has been scored. And so you can just go ahead and fold it in half. And as Deanna does, and which is always a good idea, it's always a good idea to use a bone folder or something just to burnish the edge as well, because it just makes it stand up a little bit nicer. The paper I am using, just in case you wanted to know, I use the Nina 110-pound cardstock. I love their cardstock. It is just such a beautiful weight. And especially, like I say, for the embossing, it just gives such a nice image on that as well. So, okay, and this card, important for the Twisted Easel card, we do have to do it this way. So it does have to open this way. We can't do it as a tent. It does have to open this way. Okay? So if everybody has that done, what we're going to do now is we're going to, let me take my blade off and put my scoring blade on. That was something else I had asked you to have. If you don't have it, it's okay. You'll be able to just fold it, especially if you had lighter weight paper. And otherwise you may have a scoreboard too. But I always like to use just my scoring blade on my Fiskars trimmer. Just makes it easier for me. So I'm going to show you on this piece. This is just a scrap piece of paper, but what I wanted to show you on here, because it's hard to see on, excuse me, just the white paper, this is what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be scoring a line, and it has to go this way. If you can see the arrows that I've got here, you're just going to score it that way. So all you need to do is take your paper. So here's your card. It's opened this way. And all we're going to do is we're just going to put it on the track going in that diagonal. If you can see what I'm doing. Does that make sense to everybody? Everybody good? So we're just going to take that. And again, if you're putting it on your scoreboard, same thing. And you're just going to take your scoring blade and you're just going to score it. And I do it a few times just to give it a really good score line. Okay, so that's done. All right, so that is your card done. Now we're not going to worry about the folding and the gluing right now. We're going to build our piece that's going to go on the front of the card, this card here. So we're going to build that first, and then we'll go back and we'll do our gluing and folding, so it'll make a little bit more sense when you get to that point. Okay, so that is our card base done. So we'll just sort of set that aside at the moment. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, so what we're going to do now is we're going to build our cover. So this is the one that we're going to do. So I asked you if you could have some extra white cardstock. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take a piece of your cardstock, get my scoring blade off, put this one back on. And if you see on my dimensions card here, so we've got our card base scored. Now we're doing our topper piece. Okay, so we're going to cut a piece of white cardstock from 5.5 to 5.5. So it's the same size as the actual card itself when folded. Okay, so if you want to take your trimmer, whichever trimmer you use, and just cut it 5.5 by 5.5. Okay, and I always find it better, it's entirely up to you, but I find it easier to cut my 3 layers and then we can go ahead and glue them together at that point. But again, if you want to do one and glue it, whichever you prefer to do, you're good to go as well. Okay, so the second piece we're now going to do, because again, we're building this layer, this is your top layer, is we're going to do our black cardstock. Now, you have a couple of options. I asked you to have some black cardstock. You also had this in your kit. You can use it. I just found it was a little bit on the thin side, and the black wasn't quite black enough for me, so I like to use just the plain black cardstock. And the cardstock that I use is the Spellbinders. They're Color Essentials cardstock. Again, it's just awesome cardstock because it is 110 pound and it's lovely. It's great to work with, again, for embossing or anything. Okay, so now we'll go back to our dimension sheet up here. And so I've got right here, cut a piece of black cardstock, 5 3/8 by 5 3/8. So we're just basically taking 1/8 of an inch off of that. So 5 3/8 by 5 3/8. So it's just 1 notch down from the 5.5 that we've already done from the card. And if you want to just double check that it works for you, just put it on top of your white and you should have a very small border on the outside. Okay, so now we're going to cut another piece of white cardstock. So you should still have your piece that you have already cut in half from that first one. And we're going to cut it right down here. Here we are again in our dimensions card. So 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so again, just find that on your trimmer and cut your 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. And again, if you want to double check that we are good, just hold it up and you should have another little fine border just around the outside. So there's our 3 pieces so far. Everybody good? Everybody's following along okay? It's very quiet on comments, so I hope I'm I hope I'm doing a good job for you guys. Okay, good. There's some thumbs up. That's what I want to see. Okay, so then we are going to work with our patterned paper. So this again is your top that you've got here. So we're working with this beautiful floral paper. So what I have done, because again, I want to make sure that you have your paper for Courtney's class for whatever she's using. So this was your 12 by 12 that you had in your kit. I think I must have used another little piece somewhere, but anyways, that's your 12 by 12. We're just going to cut a foot. That way we can keep this to the side in case you needed it for Courtney later, okay? So we are just gonna cut a 5 1/8 strip of this paper. So you go ahead and cut it. I've already cut it off there. So you're just gonna cut 5 1/8 in off the one side of your paper. So 5 1/8, and you can cut it in a square. So 5 1/8 by 5 1/8, and that's what again is on the dimensions card. It says cut a piece of floral paper 5 1/8 by 5 1/8. And that's that guy. Okay, so those are all, there's your base of your topper that's going to go on the outside of your twisted easel card. Now, I'm just going to give you a hint, but you don't need to do this right now. We're basically going to do almost the exact same dimensions for the inside, but I thought, especially today, and especially because this is new for me, that we are just going to work in stages. So we're doing our topper now, we'll do our inside later. But if you're going to recreate this or you're watching it on replay, you could cut 2 of all of those pieces ahead of time. So I hope that, you know, that makes it a little bit easier as well. It might be a bit quicker in the long run, but I just thought we're better to do it piece by piece today, especially for me. So anyways, so there is our top. So why don't we go ahead and glue this together? So what I did was I glued the floral piece to the white piece. Okay, so use whatever glue. I'm going to use my, well, I'm going to use my quick dry. I'm hoping and hoping. And so does the person that's standing over my shoulder, that this is going to arrive soon, because this really is my favorite glue because it's so easy to work with. But I know it's just been a really difficult challenge for Deanna to get it, and probably Courtney as well, to get it back into stock. But we will work with what we have. So all I've done is just stuck that white, the floral piece onto the white piece. That's your first piece done. Now, I'm not a foam tape queen like somebody else that I know, but I do use it quite a bit. So, but again, what I've always said in the past is you decide how thick you want things. If you prefer not to use foam tape, don't use foam tape. It'll make it a thinner card for mailing and things like that. But I do like to use some of it. So as you've probably heard Deanna in the past talk about 3M, and I won't go into that because that just gets her all riled up. But I was the exact same as Deanna. 3M was my absolute favorite foam tape because it cut so well and it didn't gum up your scissors and you didn't have to worry about it. Unfortunately, we can't get it that way anymore. Now it's being used for, what is it, drywall or something? So it's crazy. So anyways, I have switched to Altenew foam tape, and I actually find that I like the thickness of it. And I also find that I can cut, like I almost cut all my samples, worked on everything. And then maybe at the end of doing it all, I had to use a little bit of, my Goo Gone or whatever and clean up my scissors. But I didn't have to do it. Some foam tapes you buy now, you have to cut and clean, cut and clean. And you're not going to do that. So anyways, this Altenew foam tape is awesome. I'm sure Deanna or Courtney, if they don't have it in stock, can get it for you. It's a nice big roll of it as well, and I just find it works the best. I'm also a cutter of foam tape. I'm not a ripper, so it makes a big difference to me. So anyways, there's my information on foam tape. So now you're going to take your piece that we've already done, the floral onto the white, and we're going to use foam tape just to put it onto the black. So that's going to give you a little tiny bit of dimension. So go ahead and do that. I just usually put a couple in the corners. Like that. And you of course could put more on as well, but we'll just do this for today. Get rid of my garbage. There we go. Okay, so we're going to put this onto the black piece. And again, if you didn't want to use the foam, you could just glue it right on and it would be just as quick. So, but that does give it a little bit of dimension. And then what I did, oh, look at that.
You touch it so once, so just slide it down.
Okay. What? Slide what down?
The cutting instructions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
good. I'm glad. Thank you very much. Who asked for that? Valerie?
Will disappear.
Oh, I see. Okay. That's what I'm like. Where did everybody go? There we go. Thank you, Valerie, for asking me to move the dimensions card. Is that better? You can see it a little bit better now. I hope that works for you. Okay, so now I'm going to take the piece that I have put, the floral, the white, the black. That's all now together as one piece. We're now going to just glue that onto our white base piece. Okay, and again, you could use foam tape. If you wanted it to be a little bit thicker, you could use foam tape on this piece as well. But I just find, like I say, I like to get some dimension, but I just don't use as much depending on the card itself. Okay, so we're going to stick that on. So now we have formed the base of our topper, which is this piece right here. Okay, makes sense? Everybody good? Okay, so that's the base of our topper. So now what I would do is I would stick this onto my card, and then we can go ahead and build the rest of it. We can put the other cards and stuff on top. So let's go back to our card that we've already scored on the diagonal. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to take this bottom corner and you're just going to fold it up. Just like that. Okay, makes sense. So this is our card. We've got it like this. Open it up and take this bottom corner, left corner, and fold it up to the top. And because we've scored it, it should be pretty accurate. It's really not going to matter too much because it's going to be hidden by your topper. And then go ahead and burnish that if you want, just to give it a nicer fold. Okay, so if you looked at this before we put our topper piece on, that is what's forming our twisted easel. Okay, so then you are going to just look at my notes. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to open it back up again. Okay, so we've got our diagonal this way. You're going to take your topper piece, and the only place you're going to put glue is on this bottom triangle. Okay, make sure you don't put it up here. So just on the bottom triangle, just cover that with glue. So just like that, put some glue on there. Take your topper piece and just stick it into place. And I mean, you basically, you can close your card and just push on the bottom because that is the only place you have glue. So just like that. See? And then when you go to flip that up, there is your topper. So that forms your twisted easel. Make sense? Everybody good? I love doing Twisted Easel cards. They are awesome, especially at Christmas time, because it's a great way to hide a little gift card and things like that. And it just is such a fun, really easy. It doesn't take a lot of time. You just have to, you know, get the instructions basically, and then you've got it. So you're good to go. Okay, so now let's decorate the top, and then we'll do our inside after that. Okay, are we for time? Not too bad. I did do the 3 cards. I think I might have mentioned it earlier, but if we ran out of time for any reason, I know we'll get through this one and the second one. If for some reason we didn't get to the third one, it is very easy. So I'm not really worried about it. I'll just leave it with the dimensions, and you'd be able to put it together afterwards. So it's not a problem, but we should be okay. Okay, so now we are going to do the beehive piece next. So if you want to grab this piece of pattern paper, it has like the daisies on the back of it, and it's got your beehive on the front, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to cut a 2 3/4 inch strip off the side. So just about 2 3/4 on your trimmer. Like that, and the rest of it you can just set aside. It'll either be for Courtney if she's going to use it this afternoon, or you will also have it for your extras. You're going to have lots of extras left in this kit. It's an excellent kit, and like I say, Echo Park is one of my absolute favorites. So here are the dimensions for what we are working on now. If you can see that, let me move it down a little bit. There we go. Okay, and we're working on this background card piece here, the beehive card piece. Okay, so we have cut the beehive, we've cut the strip off, 2 3/4. Now we want to cut that, I hope you can see that I changed it, to 3 3/4. So just cut a piece this way, 3 3/4. So you have a little card like that. Okay, then your scrap cardstock, again, that we should still have some extra pieces left over from our first part that we were doing. You're going to cut 2 7/8, so just about 3. You can see that on the trimmer. So 2 7/8, right, almost close to 3. 2 7/8 by 3 7/8. So we're just taking, again, a tiny little border on the beehive. So if you just hold it up, make sure that works for you. And your black cardstock, again, you should have scraps from where we worked on that first piece. We want a 3 by 4 piece. And the other thing is, you don't need to do all the layers. If you don't feel like you want to do as many layers as I'm doing, you don't need to. I do a lot of white on white, like I do a lot of embossed, and then I put it on white, and then that goes onto my white card. I just like the look of it, but you can eliminate layers anytime that you want to do. So there we go. That's formed our piece. So let's just glue that together. So I did the patterned, my little beehive onto the white. And I believe, I'm just going to double check. Yeah, I just glued those all flat. So then you can just glue the beehive with the white mat right onto the black. So it's all flat. Especially when you have that other card going over top of it. It's good to have not too much thickness underneath there. So okay, so that's your little beehive piece that we're going to use as the background. So let's build the other one first, and then we can put those two together if that works for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to just take that dimensions card away. Again, if anybody needs it, I can always add it on afterwards, so no problem. And then we're going to work on the top piece, which says, this is my happy place. And you should have, if you had a chance to cut that out for homework. Again, it just made it a little bit easier. So I asked you to cut it out 4 by 4 because that is the way the card comes from Echo Park. We want to cut it to 3.5 by 3.5. So how we're going to do that is we are going to take this and we are going to cut it to 3 3/3. So if you want to just take the side there, 3 3/4, cut off a little strip, and then just turn it. Okay, so you're going to turn it and again cut it to 3 3/4. Okay, you're going to turn it again and you're going to cut it to 3.5. And you're going to turn it again and cut it to 3.5. So now your little piece should be 3.5 by 3.5. So that the way we did that is so that you had a border that was consistent all the way around. If you had just taken off 3.5, you could do that, but then you might not get the same effect on both sides. So we just did it that way to make it a little bit easier to get the full thing. Okay, so we're going to now cut your white cardstock. So if you can grab another piece of white cardstock. Let me just see if I've got one here, right here. And we're going to mat this piece. And we're going to cut that to 3 5/8. So 1 notch bigger than 3.5. Again, it's just going to give us a tiny little border. Okay, so just like that, got a tiny little white border on there. And then again, a piece of black cardstock, and we're gonna do 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. There we go. So there's those 3 pieces. Make sense? Everybody good? I'm not going too fast. I'm doing okay. And like I say, the nice thing about Crafty Hour is you can always go back. You can rewind and go back and, what did she say about that? I get told that all the time. So it's a good idea to be able to go back and take a look afterwards as well. Okay, so now we're just gonna glue this. And I did this is my happy place onto the white, just glued flat. Okay, and then on my sample, I put foam tape in behind the white, and then I put foam tape on afterwards as well. But let's just put a little bit of foam tape on the back of this one. And again, totally up to you. If you prefer to have it flat, that's totally fine too. Okay, so we've got that piece done. Peel off my little squares. Add that on there. Okay, so now you have that built. Good? Everybody good? All right, so now what we can do is let's put these pieces together here on the front, okay? So all I did was just kind of eyeball exactly where I would like to have my pieces. All you need to make sure is, of course, that they're not down here, but you can decide wherever. If you wanted to have this straight and this straight, you could do it. I just did it on a little bit of an angle like this, but however you want to place it is all good. So once you decide where you would like to have your honeycomb background, then go right ahead. I kind of dropped it down a little bit on my sample, but you could also go up here, whatever you'd prefer. So just add a little bit of glue because we're just going to do that flat, but keep in mind that if you're putting it off to the side, like I did here on the sample, pull the sample in, that you don't want to put glue there because you don't need it. You know, you don't need it sticking. So just put sort of glue, maybe even just in the center, just like this. because that should be plenty. And then just decide exactly where you would like to place it. So just like that, and that is glued on. Okay, good. Perfect. Okay, so then we're going to take our, this is my happy place card. And what I did was I put it on my card, and what I did was I put this on just flat with my glue, and I added just a tiny couple of pieces of foam tape underneath, only because it is up a little bit when you're putting it onto this background piece. But I don't want it to again, if you wanted to have it, you know, higher up, you could definitely do that. But what I did was I just kind of put a couple of pieces of foam tape on this side, top and bottom. So here and here. Okay, and you can pull the release papers off that. And hold on a sec, maybe no, I did. Okay, and then when you're going to put the glue on, just put the glue inside. So in here, don't go straight to the edge. And the reason for that is we are going to add this sticker. And so we want to just be able to slide it underneath. It doesn't need to be on foam or anything, but you want to make sure that you have, that you can just slide it under, and if you've got your glue right there, you won't be able to. So I would just put a little bit of glue sort of on the inside like this, just to be able to stick it down. Okay. And then go ahead and stick it down. Just like that. And again, you place it wherever you'd like. If you'd like it a little bit higher, you want to have it lower, or like I say, more on an angle or not on an angle, any of it'll work for you. So no problem at all. Okay, so we're going to come back and do the embellishing after we're done. Let's do the inside now, okay? So as I said, for when we did the first pieces, we did the white card, and then we built the rest of it. For the inside, you don't need to do, obviously, you don't need to do the white card again, because that's what formed our topper. We don't need that on the inside. So we are going to start just with the black cardstock. So there's only the 3 pieces of the, for the inside, where when we started off, we did the 4 because we had the white cardstock for the topper. So now we're just gonna build our inside. And we don't, there's no foam tape at all. We want to make sure that it is flat. It just makes it easier when you're pushing your twisted easel card that it stays flat. So it's easier that way. So go ahead and grab another sheet of black cardstock if you've got it. And you are going to cut a piece 5 3/8 by 5 3/8. 1, 2, 3. So that's 1 notch down from 5 1/2. So just like that. You see it on my, where am I? There we go.
Yeah, the camera's on this side.
Okay.
It's a little off.
Okay. Anyways, 5 3/8. So just 1 notch down from 5 1/2 is what you're looking for. Okay. Then you're going to grab your white cardstock again. And we are going to cut a piece of 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. So that again is going to be 1 little notch down from your 5 3/8. And you want a bigger border, you want a smaller border. Well, you couldn't really go smaller, but if you wanted a bigger border, you can always do that as well. Okay, good. And you can see that you just have that small little border. And then you're going to take your floral piece that you still had left, because we just cut the 1 strip in order to do the card. And you're going to cut it. It's already cut at 5 1/8, which is what we used on the top. You just need to make a square. So you just need to cut it the other way, 5 1/8. So it's 5 1/8 by 5 1/8. Okay, and there's your 3 pieces. That's going to form your inside. So let's go ahead and glue those together. I can't remember where I first learned a twisted easel card, but it really is a great card. People really enjoy seeing it because it's just so different than anything that you could really buy or that a lot of people put together. So I'm glad you've got the dimensions, and if you, like I say, if you're never sure, or you can always post in the Crafty Hour creations, and I'll be happy to answer your questions or repost the dimensions or anything like that for you. Okay, so there's our 3 pieces glued together, just like that. I love this paper. It's just so happy and cheery. Okay, all good? Aw, thanks, Sharon. You're like my biggest fan, I swear. Okay, and then we are going to put that on the inside. So we're just going to stick that on the inside of your card. And again, don't use foam tape, only because when we try and do the easel itself, if it's popped up, then it's a little bit difficult to keep it from staying up for you. So make sure that you just glue it flat. So open up your card, and this just goes on the inside. And the nice thing about this pattern paper as well is you don't have to really worry about one way or the other. It's an all over pattern, so it doesn't really make a difference. Okay, so now we have got our top, we've got our inside, and now we're just going to form your easel for you. So let's go ahead and stick grab your sticker sheet that you have, which is so awesome because you were given a full sticker sheet for me doing this class as well as Courtney. So you're going to have, again, lots left over. So the one that I used is I used this little guy right here, or did I use the bigger one? No, I used the little one. Okay, so I used this sticker sheet, this flower down here, the one that's right above the journey has just begun. So you just want to grab that off of there. Okay, and I'll tell you what I did for this is I made it so it kind of came off my card. Now, the way I was able to do that is I used a powder tool, because if you kept it with the adhesive on this leafy part, it would stick to the card, which is fine. If that's what you want it to do, no problem at all. But I had no idea how to use a powder tool until I watched a Crafty Hour with Courtney and Diane. And I was like, that's like ingenious. How does that work? So anyway, so what you want to do is just tuck your little flower in. And again, you put it to whatever dimension you want. And I just kind of pushed on the center of the flower. Okay, just like that. And then this is the powder tool. And there's a few on the market. This one is EK Success, I think. And it's great, and it can be refilled, and it doesn't come out. It's not all over the place or anything like that. So I just take my powder tool and I just brush it on the back of the leaves. And wherever that, you just don't want it to stick to your card itself. Okay, so you can see that okay, that I'm doing. Perfect. See, and then that way, that can kind of be raised up, and it's not going to adhere to your card. Again, if you want it to be flat and you don't want that, then don't worry about it. It's just something else to add on. Okay, and then the other thing that I added on to this guy is the cute little bee, and the one I used is the one that is right beside Sweet as Honey. And all I did for this one is I just put it on a little pop dot, and I don't think I even worried about the adhesive. You could again use your powder tool if you want to make sure it doesn't stick on the wings and that, but I thought it was popped up enough. And I love these sticky thumb pop dots. They're great because they come in the 3 different sizes and they're just that much thicker than a lot of the other ones. So they're really great to be able to play with now, as long as I can get them off with my nails, which I did. Yay. Okay, so Pop Dot just in the center of the little bee, just like that. And I just stuck him just sort of to the side of my flower, or you could put him down a little bit. I think on this one, I'll just put him down a little bit. There's that. And then I added the little word hello, which again is on your sticker sheet right down here at the bottom. And I put a tiny little piece of foam tape in behind my hello, just so it kind of came off the paper a little bit. You could again just stick it directly on, and you could also put it wherever you'd like to on the front. Get that off. And the word hello. Just like that. And then you can go ahead and embellish it. I did put a little black gem in the center. I used the Fashion Jet Spellbinders ones, which are right here. These are awesome as well. They're not on a string. They come off individually, and you get all the different sizes, which I just love. So you can just stick one. I just stuck it in the center of my flower there, and I stuck one in my center of my flower here. You could use rhinestone gems. You could use whatever you like. Gold ones, if you'd prefer to have something a little bit more glittery.
Explain the inside, but move on to the next card.
Okay. Okay, so your next, I'm just going to explain the next one because we're almost done with it anyways. And that way we can move on to your second card for you as well. This again is planning for me today because I haven't done it before. So the only thing I did for the inside, which is super easy and you can go ahead and done it. And I've got it still here on this dimension sheet, which is on the board. See this here where it says cut a piece of white cardstock 4x4. So what I did for that is I just cut myself a piece of white cardstock, 4x4. And again, I will post the dimension cards afterwards too. And I did the same thing as we did for scoring, but this way we are cutting it. So I cut it on the diagonal, just like that. And I stuck it in the corner of the card. This way, there's your space to be able to write on it for people, and that as well. So you just want to glue that in there. And I didn't stick, if you can see on my sample, I have got the little bee in here on the white piece, if you can see that. Can you see it? Yeah. Okay, so this little white, the little bee is right here. Wait till the end so you can make sure he comes out far enough so you can, you know, see him. That's the whole idea behind it. And then your Be Happy strip that I talked about that was on the bottom of the paper, all you're going to do with that is just mat it in some black. Where did my little Be Happy strip go? Right here. All I did was just mat it in some black cardstock right here. So that's your little Be Happy strip that was on the bottom of your paper. And I matted it in black, and then I used foam tape. And all you're going to want to determine is where you would like your twisted easel to go. So once you've stuck this in, this piece, you can have it all the way back. You can have it come out a little bit more. So what that is going to determine is this piece is going to be your stopper. And it can either be, I've used wood buttons before or regular buttons, and that can be your stopper as well, because once it's stopped there, like this one, here's our finished one. So once it's stopped there, and then all it is just pushing it down, and there's your card closed. So, and I added a tiny little one of those little black gems as well to the end of the little bee, just to give it some dimension too. And then I stuck in one of the little bees that's on the, you got a few different ones. So whichever one you decide you want to use, but I just like the idea, I think I used, where is he? The little one that just sort of peeked out because I thought that was kind of cute. You could see it from the outside as well. That is your twisted easel card. So I hope you liked that one, and I hope that wasn't too rushed. And again, if anybody has any questions, you can always reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer those. And I can also always post the dimension cards too. Okay, so we're going to do card number 2. Card number 2 is really quite easy. That is this guy. Everybody okay? Good. This is this guy. Anybody who knows me, and I know some of you do, I have had the honor and the privilege of seeing Paul McCartney 7 times. My husband's seen him 10 times. So if I didn't do a card that said "Let It Be" on it, I don't think I could go home tonight. So I had to do a card that had "Let It Be." So that's this one here. And it really is easy because you've done your homework with the embossing folder. And so that basically is your base. Okay. So I asked you to do, again, a card in the homework. So your card base, here we go, is 5 1/4 by 7 inches scored. So that is this guy. And we'll, again, just run the burnisher over top of that. Just like that. Just gives it a nicer fold for afterwards. And I also got you to cut your Let It Be card, the little 3x4, down to 3x4. So that's already done, or it should be. And if not, you can do it whenever you get a chance. Okay, so the next piece we're going to do is, again, we're just going to mat this little Let It Be piece in white cardstock. So you want to cut a piece of white cardstock 3 1/8 by 4 1/8. Just like that. And then just make sure you've got just a tiny little white border around it, which is what you should have, just like this. Everybody okay? Oh, Debbie, you and my husband would get along just great, let me tell you. Anyway, so there's your white cardstock. Now we're going to cut a piece of black cardstock. And so we want 3 3/8. So not quite 3 1/2. 1 notch below 3 1/2 by 4 3/8. And again, that's just going to give us a tiny little border. Actually, it was a tiny bit bigger on this one. So that gives you a little bit, you can see the black a little bit nicer on that one. So 3 3/8 by 4 3/8. Okay, so what we're going to do, let's stick the Let It Be piece onto the white with glue. So just flat. Just like that. And then let's use a tiny little bit of foam tape behind that guy onto the black. So it'll just pop it up a little bit more for us. And you can put it all around, but I'm just gonna stick a couple pieces on there for now. Okay, then we're going to cut our black daisy piece. So again, that was on your full sheet of 12 by 12. It has just the yellow on the back. And we're going to cut a piece of this, which is 2 3/4 by 6. And the rest of it, again, we'll just set aside, and either Courtney will be using it or you will have extras for your further creations. Again, this is just a beautiful, beautiful paper. So 2 3/4 by 6. That's your daisy piece. Set that aside for a second. And the tiny bee piece. And again, 12 by 12. Okay, it has the gingham on the back. And you're just going to cut a piece. I kind of played around with this a little bit just to get the one that kind of had the most bees in it, because there's kind of gaps. It doesn't really matter. It's a random print. And again, you can set that aside because the rest of it'll be for when Courtney goes to do it. And then you're going to cut your strip to 5 3/4. Okay, so 1.5 by 5 3/4. Okay, that's the card. So then you have got your embossed piece that we did in homework. And again, if you didn't have an embossed piece, you could just go right onto the card, whatever you'd prefer. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take the little bee print and we're going to stick it on top of the daisy piece. Okay, and again, just flat. So just glue. That. And just wherever you'd like to have it, if you'd like it more centered, I kind of did it more to the left-hand side of the strip, just like that. And you're just going to stick this onto your embossed piece. And again, I did it just to the left-hand side. Like I say, this one is more just putting your papers on top of each other. This is what I do a lot of. I don't do a lot of inking and things like that. I'm in awe of it for the people that do it. But I love to play with embossing folders and die cuts and layers and all that kind of stuff. That's just what I love to do. Okay, so then put that on there just like that. We're still good. Okay. And then the only other thing I did on this guy was I took a piece of this. So this was the one that I said you could use the black cardstock if you wanted to. On the other side of it is this really pretty golden yellow or gold color. And I kind of made these little corners because then I thought it kind of added a little something. So all you want to do is take this and cut it to 1.5 by 1.5. Okay, so just cut a piece off of it, 1.5 by 1.5. And you know what we just did in that last card where we made the corner for the inside? We're gonna do the same thing for this. So all you do is put that little square on your cutting line and cut it. Now you've been left with 2 little corners. And all we're gonna do is glue those in between, glue those behind it. So take a tiny bit of glue. And I did the one side. Like that. What's that? Oh, sorry.
Yep, all good.
Yeah. So just like that, corner and corner. And then you're ready to build this. And you can do this. We don't need to do this one now, but there's your pieces. So what I did was I took this, I put foam tape on it, I stuck it on top of there. I put foam tape behind my embossed piece, and it went onto my card base, wherever I put my card base, which is right here. Oh, excellent. Okay, and then the other thing I should mention on this guy, because I just love this bee so much, and because you also get the bee, and you don't need to do this if you want to keep your bee for something else. But what I did was I took my bee off my sticker sheet, and because they're the exact same, I put the little bee over top with my foam tape. So it just kind of popped him up a little bit. So we can just do that quick. So I can stick it on so you can see him. And again, use that powder tool. If you're worried about this sticking onto the card, then go ahead and use that powder tool. You know what? That powder tool has been out forever, and I was always like, what's a powder tool? I don't know what it is. I just love it now. It's like the best thing. And then the other thing I did was I added a little flower. So again, off your sticker sheet. Oh yeah. You know, I always think I'm showing somebody. Wrong way. Sorry. So there's the little flower, and I just added him on there, and again put a little gem in the center. And then for the inside, if you want to do this, this would be something optional. You could use the part of your strip of paper that we've already cut off for this front, the daisy. And I did the same thing as we did on the twisted easel. So I just made it into a corner and put "Be Loved." And if you didn't glue this part, this could also be like a gift card holder or something for the inside. It's just something different. If I'm doing a special card, like somebody's turning 60 or something, I will put this corner in here and then die cut 60 and put it in the corner. And then you can add your sentiment. It's just a little something extra. So that's your Let It Be card. So we got the 2 done. And then I'm just going to show you the 3rd one. I don't know if we'll get the whole thing done, but it's very, very quick. The 3rd one is this really cute little one. And we use this awesome embossing folder, which is what I showed you earlier from Sizzix, because I just like the fact that that's the size of it. I think I even cut it down a little bit more, but I was able to just emboss it and I'm good to go for a card. So it's just so quick, and you're not using a full sheet and cutting it down and all that kind of stuff.
If you want, you can do that in your real time and they can rewatch.
Okay.
Because you probably could if you did.
So put it together?
Yeah, just
okay.
do it real quick.
Okay. Deanna's giving me my hints.
Then they can always go back and watch it, but do it in real time.
I'll do it now. I'll put it together, and then you guys can go back and watch it if you're not sure. The little bees, I used one. I think Courtney used one. You're going to have lots of cute little bees left over, and we will have more little bees coming too. So you can also call Clipper Street or Courtney, and they will get them back in for you. I think they'll be back next week. So let me just put the dimension card up for this guy just so you have it. And again, if you want to take a screenshot, or I will post it. Card base I asked you to do was the 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 scored. 4 1/2, that's what it says. I just can't read. 4 1/2 by 4 1/2, thank you. And then we also cut out the floral notes piece. And you know, when I was doing this one, I thought, what am I going to do with something that says notes? Like, it's not really something that I would use for cards. So that's why I just hid it. So that's when the embossed piece went over and you don't even see the word notes. So you're going to cut, you've cut your floral notes piece with the homework, was 4 by 4. And now we're going to cut a piece of white cardstock. And again, 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. So a very tiny border. We're going to cut a piece of this beautiful green paper, which has this light yellow. This was the other awesome thing about this kit, is this kit didn't come with these papers, right? We put them in. We added them in, which is just so awesome because they're exact matches. So it's just so nice. So 4 3/8, so not quite 4 1/2. You're going to cut a square. So 4 3/8, 4 3/8. So we've got our notes piece, we've got our white piece, we've got our green piece, and then your embossed piece, which I have down here on the dimension sheet. I think that's down in the screen. We cut it to 2 5/8 by 4 1/4. And I matted that as well. So I also had a piece of white. Where's my white scraps? Right here. So I cut a piece of white cardstock, 2 7/8 by 4 1/2. Okay, so I matted my white piece just like that, and I used foam tape. So I put foam tape behind this onto here. Then I put this onto my notes, and what I did was I just did it to the line, so that's why it sticks up a little bit more too, which I thought was another, it also looked kind of neat on the card, that it wasn't flush against the card itself. And then I just added the sticker from your sticker sheet and the Just Be You and stuck on this adorable little bee. And like I say, I only used one, and I believe Courtney only uses one. So the rest of them are all yours to play with them. I think that's it. Are we good?
We are over good.
Wow.
Reminders.
Okay. First of all, I have to thank all of you so much. I really hope that I didn't rush or I didn't talk too much or do anything. I will.
Writing. It's a mess.
What? That I will definitely post the things. And like I say, this, let me just show you quickly.
Yeah, show it.
This, all of these cards with dimensions will be posted onto Crafty Hour Creations. Okay, so all of these, there's 3, and most of them used either are scraps or we also, and there's the other one, Be Yourself. So we either, and I did put down if I use something extra like a die or a punch or a embossing folder or anything, I put that on there. Some of you have already purchased this, I know, the 6x6 pad. A lot of those creations are from that. So that's why, again, but you could use the paper that is left in your kit. You don't have to use the 6x6 pad, but this is awesome as well because it also shrinks down the little sayings and things like that. So that was something I used. And then the other thing is this die, and I love this die. And the only reason I want to make mention of this one is really quick is because I found it really difficult. Well, I couldn't cut it apart. So I didn't. So I just ran it through my die cut machine and it cut out all of these little pieces, which are awesome. But now you don't have the inside piece. Now what you could do is you could just stick this on your paper, cut around it, and you would have the inside piece. But I thought that if we could find another die to use for the inside would be great. So we have discovered that Paper Rose has a stitched hexagon set as well. And so we're going to, Deanna will bring that into Clipper Street, and I'm sure Courtney can get it for you as well. And it is awesome because then you can use the one as your frame and make shakers and things like that, as well as the Paper Rose one for the inside. So that will all be posted for you later on. So don't forget, Courtney is at 5 p.m. Pacific time on her page, which is Scrapbook N Memories. And hopefully you've signed up also to say interested or going. If you do that, then you also get a reminder, which is fantastic for that. So, and then Crafty Hour number 20. Is that mine or yours?
Nope, mine.
Yours. That's Deanna's. We're already looking at 21. But 20, Crafty Hour 20, will go live tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. It's very limited. It's awesome. I've seen a sneak peek of it. You'll love it. So make sure you take a look at that as well. And if anybody wants any of the products that I've shown, like the 6x6 pad or the embossing folders or the die cut, please call your store or email your store. That way Clipper Street will get requests as well as Scrapbook and Memories. Anyways, I really appreciate you all being with me today. I hope you enjoyed it. And I look forward to doing another one in July. And maybe classes down the road. We'll see. That's kind of a daunting thing for me right now, but it will happen, I'm sure, one day. But I really did enjoy being with you today, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. Anyways, have a good rest of your day, and take care, everybody. Until next time, see ya.